Good evening, friends. Welcome to another Word of Gord. Tonight we're going to do a movie review of well, I watched the DVD. I think the movie was out in the theaters a few weeks, perhaps months ago. Heaven is for Real, it is called. And it is a fairly conventionally filmed narrative about a young boy's out-of-body experience during an appendicitis operation. And that's putting it simply, of course. There are more subtleties and complexities than that, but it is a movie ostensibly about one person's perception of the afterlife, and thus of interest to me. As you know, I've reviewed a number of the afterlife movies, are the ones that purport to be about the afterlife, and I don't see any reason why not to continue with that small tradition. Now, this movie is, as I say, a fairly conventionally filmed narrative for the, I'd say, the broadest possible film audience available, rather like the old movies of the week on network television years ago. Nothing particularly innovative about the script or the acting or the direction. Conventional standards are maintained but not exceeded, shall we say. Certainly none of the innovative editing and sort of storytelling techniques that we might have seen in that Matt Damon film Hereafter, or even the earlier ones like What Dreams May Come and Defending Your Life, and particularly the Brazilian one of my favorites, the Astral City. But at the same time, it is a movie that serves a purpose. And that purpose is it represents how near-death experiences, evidential near-death experiences, affect a Christian community, which I haven't seen done before. And this is an not autobiographical, but based on a true story of a young boy, 4-year-old boy in rural community in Nebraska, whose father is a pastor and whose faith is challenged, and as is the faith and lifestyles of their church community, by the boy's evidential retelling of his experience in heaven and those whom he met there. And I say evidential because at a certain point he speaks of rising up out of his body and seeing his mother in one room in the hospital and his father in another. One of them, I believe, praying, and the other one being very angry at God for maybe taking away his son and shouting and throwing chairs about. And as this is exactly what happened, the father then believes him. And so his later tales of meeting grandfathers and other family members in the heaven worlds is taken as strongly evidential by the father. So so far it's a fairly, as I say, not only a conventional film narrative, but also fairly true to following the standard practice for out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences. Human souls leave their bodies and find their way to that part of the afterlife worlds which suits their comfort, their belief systems, their comfort zones. And as this young boy has grown up in a religious community, his father is a pastor, and he goes to church every Sunday, or so it would seem, and hymn singing is practiced by his mother and her friends once a week in their home. It is not surprising, to me at least, and it shouldn't be to you, that he will find himself in that part of heaven which caters to those who follow the Christian belief system. And not to criticize it, but just to point it out as a belief system which has its theology and its practice. And its practice is going to church. And the young lad finds himself in a heavenly church, surprise, surprise, in which he sees at one end, it's rather a sort of conventional modern church, but at one end there is a vision of clouds and sky. And in that vision of clouds and sky, and as the one of the film people says in the extras, infinite horizons, he sees stars turning into angels who sort of flap their wings and sing to him. All of which I'm sure was quite transformative to the young lad at the time, as all NDE experiences are to people who experience them. And he then meets a figure, a robed figure, who would appear to be Jesus. And while I would not be skeptical about that claim, I would also say that as I've said in many of my videos, no proof that anyone is anyone in the afterlife, because spirit guides who mean well and who wish to help those who come to them will often imitate and do a very good imitation of well-known spiritual figures. So whether it is a profoundly devoted Christian who is imitating the Spirit of Christ or Christ himself really hardly matters. If it fits the person's comfort zone and belief system and creates not only faith but serenity in that faith and some measure of peace in the heart that that soul can bring back to earth and share with others, then who cares who it is? It doesn't really matter. And as I've said in my other videos, if you haven't seen others, I've made plenty. When I'm acting as a spirit guide myself when out of body, people have certainly mistaken me, if not for Jesus, then for certainly some kind of guardian angel, saintly sort of figure. And I can assure you, there's nothing saintly about Gordon. I'm just a normal human lad who's doing his best for others when he gets the chance. I have my moments when I'm not so pleasant. But when I'm out of body and I'm doing spirit guide work, my vibration is such that those in, shall we say, desperation or anxiety or insecurity or ignorance will perceive me as a very saintly figure. And this happens to all out-of-body explorers if you check the literature. We often get mistaken for that which we are not. But we go along with the ruse, shall we say, because we know it makes those whom we are trying to move on comfortable. And that is what is important. So this movie, although, as I say, nothing to write home about in terms of movie making or acting or script writing, it's all very conventional, does perform a very important function, I believe, in that it shows how these situations can cause ripples of insecurity, ripples of challenged faith in a Christian community. For example, as this situation with the pastor's son gets discussed, several people say, how could he have gone to heaven if he didn't die? Because they have this notion that you can only go to heaven if you A, fully die, or have an NDE where your heart stops and your brain function stops and you're flatlined for 10 minutes and then come back. Well, this boy did not flatline. His he was in something maybe sort of like a coma, but not medically dead. And that seems to be a point that challenges their faith. They don't quite get that. And they don't, even by the end of it, fully understand it. But it's a point. NDEs will often challenge the faith of any number of people in any number of belief systems or comfort zones. And I believe that is part of their function, is to challenge you and make you sit up and think about your assumptions, your expectations. And for that, I applaud the movie. As far as I know, it's the first one to place itself squarely in a Christian community and take that Christian community seriously and not, mock it, satirize it. There could be others, but I certainly haven't seen them or come across them. And if anyone has, please let me know, and I'll check them out and give you my word. The word of God. Anyway, so as I say, recommended, but certainly not a 5-star movie, but one made with sincerity and a certain degree of integrity by those who I feel limited their imagination in order to reach the widest possible audience, and that perhaps were affected by a small enough budget that they couldn't really do much vivid representation of the afterlife, as has been done in other movies, particularly the Brazilian film Astral City, Nosso Luar, and What Dreams May Come, and Made in Heaven. Its representation of the afterlife is fairly basic. Let me say, fairly basic. It's, I think, true to the boy's experience, but they could have done a little more. But that criticism aside, certainly a worthy effort on the part of those that participated, and I applaud their work. So, and certainly relevant given the messy situation of the world today between Palestine and Ukraine and Iraq, Africa, so many people transitioning and out of grim ethnic rivalries and vengeance games, and all of whom are going to one of the heaven worlds or other. There are many heaven worlds, not just the Christian one. That is something we all should remember, and I say that to all Christians as well. Understand that there are many, many heaven worlds, each catering to a certain set of belief systems and comfort zones. If you would not be comfortable in Jewish or Muslim heaven, well, you won't be going there. But those who are will be, or their versions of the lower heavens or the hell realms, or to use that term, the purgatories. It's all there. There's plenty of space for everyone and every belief system. So, in these troubled times, another little ray of inspiration, which will create a little degree of serenity amongst some of you who are doubting. It all has a meaning, it all has a purpose. And with that, on that note, I shall bless you all and bid you all good evening.